All right, everybody, welcome to another Ask Philip Live. This is a live Q&A we do here in the Wits and Weights free Facebook community. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. You can join for free and ask your questions as well. These are more deep dive, personalized questions than the typical, more, I'll say, high-level podcast type questions. And what we usually do here is go over some of the free resources available to you and then dive into the questions. And so we're going to do that right now. First of all, on the podcast this week, as always, we have 3 episodes. And I like to let you know what those are because these are totally free and may solve an issue that you've been wondering about. So the Monday episode this week was called 4 Ways to Increase Your Metabolism by 500 to 1,000 Calories Per Day. And it's exactly that. It is a breakdown of the different ways that are the most effective ways to increase your metabolism without, lots of cardio or just moving more in general, even though there is some activity and movement as part of the ways to increase your metabolism. So check that out. There are definitely some surprises in there and some low-hanging fruit you may not be taking advantage of. And then, oh, by the way, the podcast is available on all platforms, and there's also a YouTube channel if you prefer that medium. The Wednesday episode is about a question that came in. Hey, does extra protein or protein powder get turned into sugar and or fat? How does that, what's the threshold for that? Is there a threshold? And so I answer it in the context of our body being a system, like an input-output system. So check that out. And then the podcast that came out today is always an interview on a Friday, and that's with Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum. So he's on Barbell he and Austin Baraki host Barbell Medicine. They're pretty well known, and I follow his podcast, but he was on the show to talk about training against injury. And he's one of those guys that has a ton of wisdom and kind of nuanced, unique approach to it that you probably haven't heard most anywhere else. So check out that podcast. It will definitely level up your game when it comes to preventing injury and dealing with joint issues, joint health, heavy lifting. If you're worried about heavy lifting and the safety of it, we address that as well. So check those out this week on the podcast, Wits and Weights podcast. Also coming out, so the next 2 Monday episodes are going to be really cool because the next Monday episode is about blood flow restriction. And I created a whole guide for that. I'm not actually showing that on the screen, but I created a whole guide that gives you the exact protocol for how to use blood flow restriction cuffs to supplement your traditional lifting program. So if you want that, reach out to me, even if it's before the episode comes out Monday, and I'll send it to you. But you could also check out the episode, click the show notes, and it'll be there as well. And it's a super detailed, exact guide on how to do it. And then the following Monday, and this is what I'm showing here, the following Monday, I'm going to be revealing the new and updated bulking recommendations, which are actually more aggressive than they used to be. These are based on what the evidence says. New studies have come out kind of confirming what makes sense for how fast you should bulk or not based on your training level. And so I'm going to go over that a week from Monday. Make sure to follow the podcast so you get all these. But also my nutrition blueprint for muscle building, this guide right here, I've updated it with the new recommendations. So if you want that, let me know as well. This is one of my most comprehensive guides because it takes you through why you would bulk, the drivers of a bulk, how quickly you should bulk. This is where it's updated per the recommendations. How to calculate your surplus, if you want to do it manually, the value of macros for building muscle, timing, alcohol, supplements, strength training, and then a whole bunch of past episodes. In fact, I just realized I should probably add a few of the more recent episodes. And then warning. And so the rest of the guide is actually a walkthrough of a bulk that I did, showing you all the stats, the numbers, the process. Like, it's pretty exhaustive. So if you want to learn everything possible about how to build muscle with your nutrition, this is a great guide. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to include a link to both the BFR guide and the muscle building guide on the YouTube video description and as well in Facebook. And if for some reason you don't see it, let me know. All right, we've got 2 really good questions today in Ask Philip, which is the thread in here in the Facebook group where you can just pop a comment on with your question and I will answer it. And the first question is from Wyatt. Wyatt says, theoretical maintenance in MacroFactor question. And I always have to say MacroFactor, it's a food logging app, and it calculates your dynamic metabolism. Highly recommend. Use my code WITS and WEIGHTS, all one word, if you're going to download it. I also have a video on how to set it up if you need that. It's on my YouTube channel. But anyway, he says, theoretical maintenance and macrofactor question, assuming all the training and recovery factors are in place, progressive overload, protein, sleep, etc. And I've known Wyatt for a while now, and he's dialed in with all this stuff, and he always asks very nuanced questions, so I like this one. Let's say you set a target maintenance weight at 180 pounds. Some days you eat a little under, some days you eat a little over, because it's an estimate and not a perfect science. And Wyatt, I would add to that, not only that, that's sustainable. Like, you're never going to be perfectly on target. So you're always, by definition, going to be a little over, a little under. And sometimes it's even more under and over than you think. When I work with clients, I like to give them a wide window and focus more on the consistency rather than necessarily the exact number. All right, continue with this question. Over the course of living and enjoying life and maintenance, okay, I love that. Your weight trends upward to 182 to 183. Maybe this happens over 3 to 6 months. Macrofactor adjust your calories to a slight deficit to get back down to 180 over time. So let me clarify that. This is me, Philip, talking here. Macrofactor uses a 3-pound tolerance, last I checked, meaning if you go above by 3 pounds or below 3 pounds your maintenance, it will then start to nudge you back toward your maintenance, but then it won't nudge you any further once you're within that tolerance. So it gives you a nice wide tolerance. Now you said, so continuing with his question, over the course of months and years at maintenance, your body weight fluctuates up and down around the 180 pounds cyclically without intentionally going through phases of bulking or cutting. Could that person expect to improve their body composition over time in that situation? Example indicators outside of lifting performance might be higher maintenance calories over time, bigger chest measurements, smaller waist measurements, etc. I recognize it's probably a try it for yourself answer, but interested in the discussion. So I've thoroughly brainwashed Wyatt at this point to know that answer number one is experiment for yourself. But I understand the value in giving you a frame and giving you an expectation for what might work based on what the science says. So here's the answer to your question. What you're talking about is effectively what I'll call a body recomp without a plan. Not a bad thing, not a judgment at all, but it's basically saying, look, I don't really want to be the type of person who's pressuring into a bulk, pressuring into a cut back and forth. And I just want to live and enjoy life and just kind of be at maintenance and also still measure that I'm making progress, right? So the question is, can you get meaningful results? Yeah, of course you can. It's going to take a lot longer. That's all. The more advanced of a trainer you are, it is without a doubt established by the literature and by experience that if you're not giving yourself a decent calorie surplus, the rate at which you build muscle is just very low, but it's still positive. And then you're also losing fat over time because you're doing the things that support that. You are training and you are eating with the right macros and nutrients and all that. So it depends on your goals. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? I definitely suggest that you first evaluate how you want to live day to day for long periods of time. And I think you've done that. You've kind of assumed, hey, I really don't want to cut in bulk for whatever reason. I don't want the kind of discomfort of being in a calorie deficit and hungry and all that, and having to really be a little more strict with things. And then maybe I don't like the discomfort of trying to overconsume on a constant basis and really push it. And that's your right? Nobody's going to tell you otherwise. And what you pointed out in your what you pointed out in your question is, well, if my lifting performance is going up, my expenditure is going up, which is an indicator of a higher metabolism slowly over time, rightly assumed because of better body composition. If your chest measurement's higher, right? If your biceps are higher, thighs are higher, your waist is lower, great. Then you are absolutely making progress. It's just going to take longer. That's it. And it's funny because I just sent out an email to my list, and I think I posted in our group today talking about what's the rush. Like, people who have that quick fix mentality, who want the results now, that's the problem. The fact that you've set a timeline is the problem. So if anything, Wyatt, this is a mentally healthy way to think about it. Like, you're not looking to get this result by this time. You're just looking to get the result. Okay. So the answer is yes, you can improve your body composition over time. It's just going to take a while. For others, like myself, we prefer really going after it hard with bulking cycles and then cutting not just because you get results a little bit faster, but we like the variety. Like I like having the different cycles and seasons just to vary it up. It makes it more interesting. It's fun. It's kind of a challenge to try to figure out how do I make the dieting work? How do I make the surplus work and kind of make it all healthy for me as well? So there you go. I think I answered your question. The answer is yes. It just takes longer. And that's the variable there. Okay. The second question we have today is from Jenny. Why is skipping not considered to be an impact exercise? Where did you hear that, Jenny? Because sure, it's an impact. I mean, you're jumping. So, I mean, jumping, running, anytime your foot is hitting the ground, it's an impact exercise, and it's a eccentrically loaded part of the movement. Somehow jumping off a box seems safer. Would this have the same effect or impact as jumping on a box? Thank you for your patience. Context, 62-year-old, diagnosed with osteoporosis, not wanting meds, gym including weights, resistance almost daily. Great. Awesome. All right, Jenny. So what are my thoughts here? Well, I mean, first of all, I think the premise has to be questioned that it is that skipping is not an impact exercise. Like skipping, jumping rope, they are. Each hop creates a force. Your feet hit the ground. That's it. Now, the misconception might come from the way that it's executed, because skipping and jumping is like small movements, right? And they're more controlled compared to jumping off a box, which is a much larger force, because when you're jumping off a box, you're working against gravity. So you have a little bit of acceleration built in, right? And it's depending on the height, generates a higher impact when you land, just physics. And then landing from that height requires that you use your stabilizing muscles and engage more to absorb the shock. And maybe that's what makes it feel safer, because you're like more consciously trying to make it safe, if you will. Kind of it confirms itself. And then jumping on a box, well, now you're going against gravity. You're slowing down as you get up. So you're going to have this nice gentle, gentle touch at the top. And I would agree that is way less impactful. They're all impacts, but that one's way less impactful. I would ask why you're doing this stuff at all. I used to be in CrossFit. I used to do box jumps and burpees and all that. I don't do any of that stuff now. There's no need to, unless you're, am I still, okay. Unless you are, what do you call it? Plyometrics are important to you for a sport, for example, like basketball or something like that, like explosive sports. Hold on. I'm just making sure I'm still recording, because I got things happening here. I believe I am. Okay. So, as far as osteoporosis, like I would say, is this beneficial? I'm not an expert in this stuff, but I would say strength training is way more beneficial, right? And since you're already doing it, I question why you wouldn't want to add these in. Are you doing it for conditioning? Are you doing it for explosiveness? I don't see personally the value, but again, I don't want to prevent you doing something you enjoy, or if it's for a sport or something like that. If you're worried that there's too much impact and you still want to do jumping, you could lower the height. You could do box steps. You could do gentle hop variations. I mean, the jump ropes are fine, all that kind of stuff. Just if you have any pain or any like kind of tendonitis in your ankles or tendons or anything in that area, that's always something you want to watch out for, especially if it's interfering with your lifting. So I think the answer to your question is it is an impact exercise, and I would want to know more follow-up below. How about below this video, Jenny, if you want to add well, here's really what I was getting at, and I'm happy to follow up on that. All right, that's it for today's Ask Philip. Again, come join the Wits and Weights Facebook group if you're not already here, if you're watching this on YouTube. If you want the muscle building guide or the BFR guide, I'm just going to throw the links right down below, and follow the podcast and let people know if you enjoy the group or you enjoy the show. And I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Happy November. Yesterday was Halloween, so we had trick-or-treating. Hope you all had fun who celebrate that, and have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.